So, who built Andhra Pradesh? It seems like a pretty simple question, right? But honestly, that answer gets tossed around like a political football all the time. In this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise and get to the real story layer by layer. Let's dive in. When you ask that question, you usually hear a couple of standard answers. A famous chief minister, maybe a specific political party. But what if I told you that's just the very, very tip of the iceberg? What if the real story is so much bigger and involves way more people than we ever give credit to? You see, history isn't some movie with one hero riding in to save the day. Building a state, building a society, that's a massive, massive undertaking. It's a collective effort, built over decades, with each generation adding its own crucial piece to the puzzle. The truth is always built in layers. And that's the perfect way to think about it for our explainer today. A giant pyramid. Don't think of Andhra Pradesh as a statue built to honor one person. Instead, picture this huge pyramid. It's got a broad, deep foundation, a super stable core, and a modern top. And all of it was built by different hands at different times. So let's start where any great structure has to begin, with the foundation. Because long before there was a state, there was an idea. There was a struggle for freedom that laid the groundwork for absolutely everything that came after.
And this foundation, it's not just one big slab of concrete. It's really made of three critical parts. First, you've got the idea itself, the blueprint. Then you need the leadership and the raw courage to get people on board. And finally, you need that one spark, the sacrifice that lights the fire.
Big movements don't just pop up out of thin air, right? They need architects. People like Rao Bahadur K. Gopala Krishnayaya, who founded the Andhra Mahasabha. He basically created the official organization that demanded a Telugu state. At the same time, you had Padabhi Sitaramaya, who was crucial in getting the educated middle class fired up and involved, giving the whole movement some serious intellectual weight. But look, a blueprint is just paper without people who have guts. And that's where giants like Tangodi Prakasam Pantulu, the Lion of Andhra, come in. I mean, the man's story is legendary. Baring his chest to British bullets during protests, he became this incredible symbol of fearlessness. He, along with on-the-ground organizers like Kala Venkata Rao, took this idea from the elites and turned it into a real, powerful mass movement. But even with a great plan and popular support, sometimes you need one powerful, dramatic push to make change happen, a catalyst. And for the Andhra movement, that catalyst was Poti Sriramulu. His 58-day fast, which ended in his death, was this ultimate sacrifice that just sent shockwaves across the country. It forced the central government's hand. His death was the direct trigger that led to the creation of Andhra State in 1953. Okay, so that incredible foundation is now laid. Now we move up the pyramid to the next huge layer, the core. Any good pyramid needs a solid, heavy core to keep it stable for centuries. And for Andhra Pradesh, that stability came directly from its villages and its farms. And this is a part of the story we often just gloss over. The freedom struggle wasn't just about politics, it was deeply economic. You had leaders like Acharya N.G. Ranga fighting for farmers' rights. You had Duggarala Gopala Krishnaya leading these amazing Gandhian non-cooperation movements. And Kaneganti Hanumantu, who organized tax resistance. They connected the big fight for independence with the everyday fight for justice in the villages. And that created this incredibly stable base for the new state. And here's a critical truth that's often ignored. None of this would have worked without the women who were the absolute backbone of the grassroots movement. Of course you have giants like Durgabai Deshmukh, a civil disobedience leader, a key member of the Constituent Assembly, just an incredible figure. But beyond her, there were countless local women leaders, mobilizing their communities, organizing protests, and giving the movement its real, unstoppable strength. So we have our foundation of freedom and our stable rural core. Now we can finally look to the top of the pyramid, the apex. These are the layers of modernization added by the leaders who came after statehood, building on all that incredible work that came before them. Think of each era adding a new layer. In the 80s, you have N.T. Rama Rao, who just ignited this powerful wave of Telugu self-respect while bringing in new kinds of welfare policies. Then from the 90s into the 2000s, Chandrababu Naidu puts the state on the global map, pushing hard for modernization through IT and e-governance. And right after that, Y.S. Rajasekhar Reddy adds another crucial layer of inclusive growth by dramatically scaling up social welfare programs, especially in health and education. So after looking at all these incredible layers, the foundation, the core, the apex, we have to come back to that original question, but now with a totally new perspective. Who actually owns this pyramid?
And when you see it all laid out like this, the answer is actually beautifully simple. The freedom fighters, they laid the foundation. The farmers and the rural movements, they stabilized the whole structure. And generations of political leaders came along and modernized it. Every single group was essential. None of them could have done it without the others. So what this all means is, at the end of the day, no single person gets to claim ownership of Andhra Pradesh. No single party, no single decade. It is the product of a long, complicated, shared history, a collective project that truly belongs to everyone.
All right, so you might be thinking, okay, cool history lesson, but why is this so important to remember right now? In today's world, why does this matter?
Well, it matters because history has real power. When we, the people, forget who the true builders of our state were, the freedom fighters, the farmers, the women, the activists, we let modern politicians act like they're kings who own the whole pyramid. But when we remember our shared history, we remind them that they are just public servants, temporarily hired to add another stone. It reinforces the most fundamental idea of a democracy, that the power belongs to the people, not the leaders.
So if there is one single thing to take away from all this, let it be this. Andhra's freedom didn't just come from guns. It came from ideas, from sacrifice, from the struggles of farmers, and from powerful people's movements. Remembering that shared effort is how we make sure that pyramid continues to be built for everyone.